such a bitch. We can't stomach cancer. It's getting on our tits. Cancer, cancer, cancer. Oh, cancer's such a bitch. Oh, we can't stomach cancer. It's getting on our tits. With Vez and Liv.
Well, that's not going in it.
Maybe.
Okay, maybe we should.
Maybe we should.
That's where we start. Hey everyone, it's Vez and Liv. Oh, true.
The roids are kicking in.
The roids.
Roids.
Love that. Welcome back to episode 2 of Can't Stomach This, Getting on My Tits podcast.
This is Liv and Vez coming at you.
With a heavy topic today, I think. Everything's heavy with what we're going to be talking
You're
about.
very out of breath.
I know, I ran up the stairs. I'm just going I'll breathe
take a minute.
slowly. Inhale.
Relax.
That's actually a good stress tactic. Is if you're feeling stressed, inhale, hold it,
Exhale.
exhale. And now I'm fine.
Very good.
So we can go back to business.
back to business.
We might have to take a few breaths during this podcast of being
Yes.
like, oh, collect our thoughts. But yeah, no, I'm glad we're talking about this actually because the stigma's slowly breaking down from our generation, I think. What are we? Gen Z? Millennial?
I don't know, one of them. 98, 2000.
I don't know if I want to be associated with Gen Z, but then I don't know if I want to be a millennial. I don't really want a label. I'll be a
We're
2000s
cancer
baby.
warriors, okay? That's our label.
Cancer warriors. That's our label. Okay.
Fine. Full-time cancer fighters.
Inspirations. No, we are.
We are.
There's no other way around it, really. But yeah.
There's no need to be humble. I can actually tuck my hair in behind my ears now. So
Heavy is the head that wears the crown.
Right,
A crown of
Stormzy.
curls.
I didn't even know if Stormzy actually said that or did he copy it from someone.
That's his album title, but I think it is a quote.
Yeah.
I don't think he coined that.
So today we're talking all about mental health, and I think this is something people can relate to, whether they have gone through cancer treatment,
Yeah.
or supported someone going through cancer treatment, or just they're a person. I think everyone in their lifetime comes across this.
And now it's spoken about more widely, which is really great.
Than ever. It's amazing. I absolutely love it. I love seeing people on social media talking about it and openly and just being very honest.
I think that's one thing. Not one. There are many good things with social media. It's just like there are many bad things. But one very good thing about social media is, in amongst the filters and the editing, you do get real talk, and people respond so well to it. Like, you obviously trolling is going to be a thing. There's no way around that in this day and age. But people do like real talk, and because you don't have to hide it. It's not something you should hide.
It's lovely because you're just like, wow, someone else feels like me, and I think it's just become the norm now to talk about it, and even me, you know.
Even Frankie, apparently.
All right, Frankie, thank you for being part of the podcast. Even like the more friends I have made, I found myself. I didn't have many friends back in the day, but now that I've got a bit more friends.
All your 3 friends.
I noticed that a lot of the conversations you do have are like, oh yeah, I'm really struggling with my mental health at the moment. I'm really feeling down, and okay, so, you know, and we like talk to each other about it, and it's really lovely rather than being like, yeah, it's okay, I'm all good, I'm all fine.
Yeah, there's no
all
pretense. I don't think you need the pretense anymore. Like, no, like, just break down that wall, break down the barrier. So many friendships I have just very candid of just like, yeah, I'm not in a good place right now.
Yeah.
And you don't, like, nothing needs, like, you don't have to say any more.
No.
It's just as long as your friends know. It's just about communicating and like even if you don't want to catch up with someone in that way, like if you, like, I have many friendships where we just don't have a texting relationship, like we go for like months without speaking, but like that's the real ones, isn't it? Like when you can go so long, and then it's fine when you do speak. I can't
spend that long away from you.
No, I know, we're attached to the hip now.
Hanging.
Sorry, I just held your hand.
Yeah, and I know what you mean. I think there's something to be said about people throw in the I'm depressed card around so much.
Yeah.
And
it's like, that's great that you are acknowledging that you're feeling bad, but
Yeah.
depression is a real thing that is
Yeah.
diagnosed, that there are medications for, and there are treatments. So
Yeah.
you can't coin that term and then not understand the weight of it.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's happening, isn't it? Because those people that are actually really struggling are having to deal with like really difficult things in their own lives. It kind of trivializes it, essentially. If then everyone's going, I'm depressed, and it's like, no, you are struggling, acknowledge that, find out how to manage, but don't then negate someone else because you don't know how you feel. Yeah, don't label it.
Don't get me wrong, like I understand, you know, people might feel like it is depression and people might, but I think that's something that needs to be diagnosed, and given the current climate, that's difficult. But I think that word is thrown about too easily.
Yeah. It's trying to acknowledge what you're going through
Yeah.
without affecting someone else.
Yeah.
And so if someone's going through something that like, if someone is depressed and then you're saying you're depressed when you're not, you're just sad at the moment, there's a difference, isn't there?
Yeah.
Like, I've been sad through treatment and then I've been depressed from drugs through treatment.
Yeah.
And I'm in myself, I know there's a difference. Like, I know that when I'm like having really anxious or suicidal thoughts, that's not sadness, that's not an emotion. Like, I don't think depression is an emotion, is it? It encompasses so much more. Like, depression looks like so many things. Like, not being just being surrounded by dirty clothes, like finding it hard to wash the dishes.
Symptoms.
It looks in people very different.
Yeah.
There's no two things like that. You
That are the
share
same.
things, but you won't look like, two depressed people won't look the same and won't display the same thing.
There isn't a list that you can just tick
No.
off and be like, oh, I checked all the boxes, I have depression.
Whereas sadness is an emotion that passes, and
Yeah.
and that's the point of emotions, isn't it? That they pass, that you feel differently throughout the day.
Yeah.
But the weight of mental health, that stays with you, and that is something you do actually have to actively acknowledge and persist with trying to get the treatment and get the right help.
Yeah, of course.
So that's why it's important to check up on your friends, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like,
check
if
on
you
your
have
friends.
relationships, like I said, like friendships where you don't speak, just check in. That, like, a friendly check in, especially now when everyone is struggling. Just check in with people, make sure that they're doing okay.
Yeah. And I think it's also so easy sometimes when you're feeling unwell to just be like, yeah, I'm fine, I'm good, because you just don't want to explain, and you're like, they won't understand, they won't know.
Yeah.
I've definitely been there when I've not
Yeah.
coped very well with, you know, mentally with treatment, and I've had really low days. Sometimes you just can't be bothered to try and explain. It's
And
so
also,
hard.
if you, like, the people you want to speak to are your cancer friends as well, going through it, and then you don't want to unload on them when they've got their own shit to deal
it's
with.
a very like difficult thing to balance.
Yeah.
Really.
I think, there's no manual, is there? You just one. There's no straightforward, this is how you deal with it, and that's the problem.
Yeah.
That's what we want to kind of help with sharing advice.
So I think, like, for me, the first kind of encounter of you know, low mental health or depression, I was never actually diagnosed with depression.
No.
It's not something that I kind of put the effort into to go and actually get diagnosed. But I know that I struggled really bad after I finished my cancer treatment.
Yeah.
And I know I mentioned this before, it just all sort of hit me afterwards.
Yeah.
I've been just like, you know, concentrating on all the appointments, all the deadlines.
And suddenly the goals are
the
gone.
goal's gone. And you're like, whoa, what just happened to me, kind of thing.
You're just floating in
in
the abyss.
Yeah.
In limbo.
And for me, it was the anxiety about, like, going back into society, kind of, and seeing other people and looking
Reinserting
different.
yourself socially.
And everything like that. So the first thing I did was be referred to the psychology services at TYA.
Oh yeah, because they do provide you with
Yeah.
that, don't they? That's one thing they do, which is amazing.
It's so amazing, because I know how long it takes
Yeah.
normally for you to be able to get referred through the NHS to a psychologist.
Having easy access
Yeah.
to a treatment like that, and to speak to like a professional, that is so good. There is no other word. It's so good. And I think after, like, when you're diagnosed, you do get, I think it's like 2 years access to that before then you'd kind of have to, well, I mean, so many people coming in wanting to use it that then that's when you'd like move away and go to your GP and through that. But for that initial period of your treatment, you do have access, and that is great. I mean, I've used it. I didn't find therapy that helpful, but I think that's because I'm just very open, and everyone I speak to is a therapist, isn't it? That's everyone. I unload on everyone, so apologies, but thank you.
Yeah, my experience with the psychologist was quite interesting because I mainly struggled with really bad anxiety, to the point where when we were allowed to leave the house and go see friends, I started refusing to, because I'd sit there and I'd be like, they're judging me. They think I'm boring. They think I'm attention seeking because I've had cancer.
Like getting in your own head a bit.
And everyone's just, because what else can you talk about after you've just spent like most of the past year going through cancer treatment?
It's part of you, isn't it? It's not something
what else
you can
can
avoid.
people ask you other than, oh, how are you feeling? Oh, your hair's growing back.
Yeah.
Oh, you look much better, or like whatever, something to do with cancer. And then I constantly used to sit there and think, oh my god, these people must think I'm such an attention seeker.
Because it always turns back to cancer.
It all
and you.
turns to me and cancer, and how my hair's growing back, and it's all the same chat all the time. But actually thinking about it, realistically, that was my life. So that's what we chatted about. But just the anxiety was just so crazy, and I focused on myself, and like thinking about it now,
and
like,
it manifests.
Nobody cares.
You let it manifest, don't
like,
you?
Literally nobody cares. Like, people have their own shit going on. Do you know what I mean? So that was the reason why I kind of decided to go to psychology, because it got ridiculous. I just wouldn't leave the house anymore.
Like, became a bit of a hermit, did you?
Yeah, couch potato.
We've all been there.
So for me, my experience was that it was really interesting. Obviously because of COVID, thanks COVID again, we couldn't do it face to face. And she did suggest, the psychologist suggested to do it kind of on Zoom, so we have a video
virtually
chat.
Yeah.
And I was a bit lazy, and I said, no, let's do it over the phone, kind of thing.
Don't look at me, I don't want to.
Yeah,
don't want to beautify myself right now.
I think because of my anxiety as well, I just didn't want to have to sit there and kind of awkwardly look at her.
Yeah.
But she was really lovely. She was really good. The only thing I found is before every session, I knew that the session was coming. I didn't want to do it.
Yeah.
I'd be like, I just don't want to do it.
It's just one thing that you just, an extra thing to do.
I don't want to sit, like, I don't want to have to talk about, because I had a bad week again last week, and I don't want to, and I'd cry at every appointment as well.
Yeah.
But then after the appointment, I'd be like, oh, that wasn't so bad. That was good. I feel much more positive now. And that was like the first maybe 4 or 5 sessions were like that.
Yeah.
So that there's something to be said about it. I think it's easy to say push yourself and do it.
But they always say a problem shared is a problem halved.
Yeah.
And like you said, afterwards you do feel a little bit like you've just managed to shed some of it and like unload a bit. And even if it's only slightly that you feel a bit less weighty, then that's a positive in itself.
And the overall experience, like by the end of it, I was much, much better. But I did need a few more sessions. Unfortunately, the lady left the job.
Oh.
I was like,
and then it's
made her
also
quit my
like,
job, didn't I?
all you. She just couldn't deal with it. But it's like you build up a rapport, don't you, with the person, and I think that's what I struggled with, was that I didn't click really with her. I didn't really, and which made the appointment that much more difficult. Because one, I didn't want to go like you. It was just another thing that just felt like it was building up. And I also it wasn't an enjoyable conversation.
Yeah.
It wasn't an easy one. It felt really stiff.
I think my psychologist told me, she said, if you feel like we're not getting on, just say, whether you say it to me or whether you say it to your nurse.
Let someone know, because it is a thing that you need to let someone with a therapist.
Well, you can try someone else, because that's one thing people do find that happens, and you need to find the right person for you, definitely.
Yeah. Which doesn't necessarily mean therapy won't work. It's just that you do need to find the right person.
And it is a process. You've got to be very patient with yourself, and you're very, very forgiving, and it's very difficult. But some of the stuff I learned during my experience was really, really helpful and good, and I think it did really help me, and I did get much better, and I ended up going out and it was like these tasks. So we had, I think, 2 weekly calls, and then I'd go away with kind of homework to work on this step by step, and slowly I got back into going out and just being a badass bitch. Just
yeah, girl.
I'm here. Yeah.
Feeling a little bit more confident.
So psychology is definitely something that, you know, a therapist, even for people not going through treatment, I think therapy is just something so amazing that you should explore.
It feels like such an American thing, like my shrink, but in definitely here. I mean, everyone. I know it's horrible, isn't it? Just like my shrink, but it is. It feels very like when I was in school, it was such a taboo. Like when people would be.
Oh yeah.
When people were off school,
are you mental?
Yeah.
Why are you going for?
It was, and people would take the piss, wouldn't it? People would take the piss. Like I had a couple of friends that I think it was CAMS they did, and I had no clue what was going on. I just was like, well, when I'm having these shit days, my mum just lets me stay home, and I didn't know there wasn't any. They didn't talk really about it in school. Yeah, they tried to. By the end, it got so much better because as a society we're kind of like
I think like if you're let's say you're not going through cancer treatment, it's almost a luxury to be able to go through a therapist.
Yeah,
I think it's so important to learn about yourself and the way your mind works and the way your body works, and it will help you just be a happier person overall, I think.
Yeah, because you it's a proactive way of kind of divulging all that crap that you've
So I think this is like the most obvious and like first thing that you can think about when you thinking about like bad mental health.
Yeah.
But I think overall there's other things we've encountered.
Yeah. I mean, the one thing I didn't get on with therapy, but one thing I do remember is that she said just stop apologizing, and that's something I will take with me. Is that she just said stop saying sorry to things. So that's a very British thing, isn't it? Have you noticed that comment? Like being here, everyone just says sorry for everything.
Honestly, whenever I go back, like when I go to Lithuania or anywhere, I go to a shop and I'm just like, sorry, thank you, sorry, and they're just staring at me like, what?
It's a bit like we always say, don't we? We're like, you're right, and we don't care. It's a greeting, and then
it's like hi.
You tell them your life story, and it's like, no, I really just that was a hey. It was a polite hey, and I wanted to go about my day. Look down. But yeah, no. She said, don't apologise, like, think proactively, like, don't say, sorry, I was late, say thank you for waiting for me, and it just changes your perspective a bit, and it, like, builds up a bit more of, like, you're less self-deprecating.
Okay.
So I took that with me, I liked that, that's something I remember.
And I think, like, not everybody will understand, like, you know, as a cancer patient, it's so difficult to do even the tiniest of tasks sometimes. And
you can't expect people to understand if they've never been through it. But it's just trying to, as on a human level, if someone's struggling, don't then put them down even more by saying, well, that's such an easy thing. Like, that's not helpful, is it?
And also, I think what's very important to remember, if someone doesn't understand, that's not your problem.
That's not your problem. And it's not your fault. It's
their emotions.
They have to deal with
their bad emotions to deal with.
Yeah. Well, it's like when I've had people message me and they've persisted with messaging me even if I don't reply. And it's not that I'm being rude. It's just that I'm sometimes too tired to reply. And I hate when people do the question marks. If I'm not close to you and you don't know me well and you're trying to be nice, that's great. But if I don't reply to that, like, it's difficult, isn't it? No one is obligated to reply to anyone. But when someone then follows that up with, like, a rude kind of, like, why aren't you validating my message? Rude, I'm there like, but I didn't ask for that. Yeah. So sometimes there are selfless gestures. If people send messages, please don't think that getting a reply means that gesture has been received. Yeah. It's been received anyway, but, like, people have lives. So then don't then think and be ignorant and think, oh, I'll follow that up and, like, just keep pestering them.
That is something that's very difficult to deal with, isn't it? Especially, like, when you're in a situation where people start finding out about you being diagnosed and whatnot. So everyone obviously cares.
Like, inundated
with
love.
Like, give me updates. And I find myself just creating groups, like a group for my family.
Like create Viva Verity on Facebook.
Exactly.
Because you're, like, widespread.
On social media and be like, so this is the update. Because you do get sick of repeating the same information. And especially if you're going through a bad day of kind of with your mental health. Yeah. It's difficult for you to keep up with those messages. But people should understand that you know, if you don't reply straight away, we
want to keep you updated. We want everyone who's ever shown us support. We do care. We really do care. But as with anything, like, family and the closeness you share with other people will come first. There's a natural hierarchy with every single person. Someone I care about, you probably won't care about as much at all, obviously. So anyone who messages saying keep me updated, of course we will, but it will take time to kind of. That's why I think
if someone would message your question marks, that's so rude.
Oh God, I've obviously Luke, my boyfriend, is very much one of the gals when it comes, especially now with like COVID, obviously Liam as well. We've got like that, they're the only people we see. He's just become someone I just bitch about too. Like he's just become one of the girls.
He just has to take it.
He has to take it all in. I don't think he knows. Well, he's great as well because he doesn't remember a single thing. Like anything I say in one ear out the other. But I do unload on him a bit especially with like anger when it comes to people, because it's very hard, isn't it, to convey something over message as well, if there's no expressions, no intonation of a voice, like there is just nothing. So things do come across wrong, but there are some conversations I've looked at and been like, that's ridiculous, like I don't even know how you thought I'd respond to that. And I think that's the problem when a selfless gesture becomes very selfish, and like it's like you're saying I care because you want people to know you care. You're not saying it because you just want this person to feel supported. And so that is about everyone. It's not just cancer, is it? It's anyone who's ever been through something. You will always get those people that just show their love so that everyone knows they're like a good person. Everyone knows that they've just done their duty. And it's like, that's great because you've checked up on someone essentially anyway. But real talk, that's just not helpful. No. It's just another person to add to the list.
I think that's what angered me the most when I got diagnosed. Like, when I got diagnosed, I was in a new setting, kind of where I lived and whatnot, and I met loads of people, and I know some of those people are would have been my good friends regardless whether I would have got cancer or not.
Yeah.
But there are other people who, I'm just throwing shade right now.
I think you have to though, because everyone deals with this.
Especially on social media. For me, the love angers me because I'm like, on a normal day, you would not give a flying F about me. Do you know what I mean? And now you're commenting about how gorgeous and amazing and beautiful I am. And I'm like, there's just no need for that. You know,
it's difficult.
You didn't care about me before.
So why care now I have cancer? Why care now? What is that skill?
Sometimes it makes people realise, like, oh my God, yeah, she's such a good friend, I suppose.
Yeah.
But there is a big amount of people that like, they don't do it for the clout. I know they don't, but it's just
some people do.
Some people do, I suppose.
Shade.
But that's a very difficult subject because it really hurts you. For me, that was why I was very divided about being open about the fact I have cancer. So some days I'd be like, oh, I don't want people giving me all this attention for just because they feel sorry for me.
Which is just crap, really. Because it's you, of course.
And then on the other hand, I'm like, well, no, I want to raise awareness. I want people to know. So it's like, it's a very hard divide, but like, no hate to anyone. And I appreciate any. I think anything we talk about genuine.
Anything we talk about, there's going to be someone that has done it, and that we're like, we can't sugarcoat everything. That's not the point of this. What we're trying to do is call out the really unhelpful things.
Yeah.
And if you've done one of those things, dear listeners, that's not your fault. Learn.
Yeah.
And there's that's the learning curve, isn't it? You don't know, now you do. Yeah. It's what you do with that information that is a testament to your character. So if you were one of those people that has done something that wasn't particularly helpful, and now you're finding out that it wasn't helpful, but you really meant in it a good way, now you know. And it's just learning. Everything's learning.
And like we said, there isn't a rule book for this.
No.
On different days, depending on my mental health, I will take the comments in a different way. Like other moment, anyone who's shown me like support or love or whatever, I'm like, oh, that's so amazing, that's so sweet. But then on a bad day, I'm like, why are you commenting on my photos? Like, you never talk to me. Yeah. We've not spoken since
very
I was
subjective
12.
To moods, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
It's learning on the job.
So for us is, we're dealing with our own emotions as well on top of everything else.
And there are days where we don't then want to have to deal with everyone else's feelings.
Yeah.
Like diagnosis day, for example. That should just be a day about yourself, and then you just sit there and you have that shock realization of, I've now got to go and upset my whole contact list. Yeah. I've got to just like
But
you
you've
know
got to
there's
let
going to be
them
tears.
deal with it.
Yeah.
You've got to let them deal with it in their own way.
And the way they deal with it shouldn't affect you.
Like,
and I think
that's
that's
the
very
thing.
important. If
That's
you're
so
upset, if
important.
I tell you something and then you're upset, but I'm upset by the news, then that's something you should deal with on your
Yeah.
own. If you're upset because I have cancer and someone close to you died of cancer,
Yeah.
telling me that someone you know died of cancer
That's not helpful.
will not alleviate any stress, panic, paranoia
not
from
helpful
me.
at all.
That is, but like you're just trying to. That's what's difficult, isn't it? A person saying that is trying to relate because but
My cousin died of cancer, and you're like, oh,
but you don't need
Cool.
to. You don't. You like if that's your only link to what I've told you, then
don't say that.
Don't say it. Like
And
if
that's
that's
not
your
us
only
being
link, that's
ignorant.
bad anyway.
That's
because
not us being ignorant or anything like that.
Yeah.
It's just like
if that way, it's just
it's
some
not
things
helpful.
you shouldn't say.
Yeah.
Some things internalize, and I think, and some people don't actually realize how kind of damaging that mindset is of just being like, oh, I need to say something to fill the silence. Like sometimes silence is good. Sometimes silence just shows that people are actually like letting it sink in, and you don't really need to speak. But when people are so uncomfortable by a topic, like if someone is so uncomfortable by what I say when I say I have cancer, and then they then need to go on and be so superficial, like, oh, this person had cancer, like, I don't need to know about your mum's boyfriend's daughter's goldfish
Yeah.
that had cancer.
Yeah.
I don't, like, that's just, how does that affect anything?
And I think for me personally as well, like the emotion side, I think if you match my emotion, that's helpful.
Yeah.
If I'm feeling positive about this, I think it's important to let people deal with the shock, like away.
Yeah.
That's why it's really good to have like text messages and whatnot.
Yeah.
But I think once we talking about it, I think if people could match my emotion, that's really helpful. Because for me, like I mentioned before, I'm in a really positive headspace about everything, and people going, oh my god, oh, this is so bad, this is so sad. That really just triggers me and really pisses me off.
But that's what's very difficult, and I think cancer and mental health encompasses one for what I'm about to say, is if I said I'm depressed and someone then came to me being like, oh no, and then somehow made that about themselves. What? That's like people do that. But you would never, if someone came to you and said, my mum's just died, no one would make them about that self. That topic would have the silence would fall, and then you would try and move forward in without offending anyone. You would you just because you know that person is very vulnerable right now, that they've got a very fragile set of mind. They've just gone through like insurmountable pain, and they're dealing with like crap. That person, having told someone's died, would just not interfere with anything personal from their own. So why with cancer, why with mental health, do people then feel the need to bring it back to themselves?
Yeah.
And I think that's what needs to change, is that if someone's coming forward with something very personal, let them have that.
Yeah.
Just be self-aware, not selfish for once. You don't need to draw the conversation back to yourself. And sorry if anyone's... Actually, no, I'm not sorry. Therapy has told me not to be sorry.
This is our experience, and this is our opinion, and you know it might not be the right one, but this is how we feel about it.
So instead of saying sorry if this is insulting people, I'll say thank you for listening to something that could be quite hard and personal, and that you'll need to change.
You might not agree, but
but thanks for
hopefully
then seeing it from our perspective. And that is the thing, isn't it? It is from our perspective. From the amount of people we've spoken to during our cancer journeys. I'm never going to be able to say that without cringing, but there's no other word for it, is it? Cancer journeys.
Cancer journey.
Then you'll know that this is what we know from speaking to them, that a lot of people do feel this way, and there isn't really an outlet of being able to offend people kind of largely without feeling like, oh god. And so we're kind of just saying it how it is, so that so it can be better and a lot more manageable.
So what other things have you done to help your mental health when it's been low or bad? Well,
specifically with cancer, it was the drugs that made me depressed, and I didn't get told about that. So they didn't say. Obviously they like list through the side effects, but I don't remember specifically being told, if you feel depressed, don't worry. The drugs do that, and we can change the dosage, and we can give you things. So I was sitting on that thinking, this is how my whole treatment's going to go. And I got to the point where I was giving up, and I was being like, I don't think I can carry on with chemo. I think I'm going to have to accept that I'm just going to have to see how long I can live without treatment if it's going to make me feel like this. I was so largely tossing up quality of life over anything, and I was like, this isn't how I want to live. And it was very, very difficult. So when I got told that it was the drugs making me feel like this,
You were like,
and I
"Yay."
was like, okay, great, but also I now have to finish treatment. So it was great when I did find out and I could know that. And that was obviously very drug related. So drugs obviously made it better by changing dosage. So that was fine in the end, and I've come through the other side. But when it was anxiety in school I still think I was just anxious because my body didn't know it was growing when it was a tumour. But when I had bad anxiety in school, every morning I would just wake up and it felt like a very extreme version, like of a much higher magnitude of stage fright. So whenever I go on stage and perform, I always just feel really sick to my stomach, and then it's just nerves. It is that like butterfly fluttering about, and how I woke up with anxiety, it was just like these butterflies were on a death mission. It was like they were stabbing me from the inside, and it was just I don't even know how to say this. It was like I was trying to think of ways that I could hospitalise myself without actually dying, because I thought the only way I could get a break was if I had a physical injury, and then people would see that and then be like, yeah, she needs time out, clearly, because I can see the damage. I can see the injury and the illness.
It's almost like your body was saying like, hello, something's wrong.
Yeah, well then now, looking back, I was like, well, I was physical. So, but like, largely, I didn't think mental health was on the same level as physical health. The whole way through school, I was thinking, like, I did an English essay on it, actually. I think we were doing speeches, and I was like, I'm going to do a speech on why mental health should be the same, like, viewed the same as physical health.
Yeah.
So when I was struggling at my worst, like that anxious stage was my worst, I was trying to think, no one's going to understand if I say I'm feeling this way. So I need to try and find a way of damaging, like limiting making it physical so it would be accepted. And that is such a horrible mindset. Like that is so toxic to your own self. So that was what I dealt with. And then I can't actually offer any tips or life hacks here, because I just woke up one day and I was like, I don't want to feel like this anymore. And I think mine was very much I was strong enough in my mind and my will to be like, I refuse to feel like this anymore. And suddenly it was like a switch turned off, and I'm lucky that it was like that, because I know for some people, like my mum for instance is very different. Like hers will hit her when she doesn't realise it. Mine crept up on me, like I was kind of aware that I was feeling worse and worse. I think my mum gets similar reactions of like she can feel it, and then that's when she like panics. She panics and goes, I don't want to feel like this, I don't want to feel like this, until it just explodes. So it looks very different for everyone, doesn't it? I don't really know any coping tactics. I tried to breathe a lot. I just like panic attacks. When you can't breathe, it's like when you have a blocked nose and you just realise you've taken breathing for granted. That's how it feels when you're having a panic attack. Afterwards, you're just like, why am I breathing? And I've just not. I can't do that now. Like, oh my god, my whole life I've just been taking breathing for granted. So anytime I'm having like a really shit moment, like I'm trying not to cry, I'll just be like, I have to breathe right now, because it's not going to help anything.
That's really helpful, isn't it?
Yeah, well sometimes
just
you
like
need to
really
cry.
Concentrating. I mean, they always say like breathe in really deep inside you somewhere, and I'm just so unfit, I can't do that.
Well, they do that in hospital, don't they? They make you breathe.
But
they're like, you need to release the stale air, like your lungs get stale air.
That's a very good expression. I love
breathing.
that. I love that, like breathe in really fresh air and breathe out stale, hot, tense air. That I love. We need to, like, it is replacing. It is like vitality into yourself. Clearing, So for me, I think like breathing, on the kind of subject of breathing, I just go on Spotify and put on guided meditation. Oh, that's really helpful. And that for me, because otherwise my thoughts, if I'm not listening to anything, my thoughts aren't like, I just can't get rid of my thoughts. Yeah.
They
But
plague your mind.
If I'm concentrating on the person's voice telling me, breathe in, breathe out, and do this and do that, that's really helpful, because then my mind's like, okay, let's concentrate on that. And then my thoughts start coming in. And then my thoughts might start coming in. And I'm like, no, go back to listening to the voice and just concentrate on the voice. That's really helpful for me.
That's great,
because
there's YouTube and there are apps for that.
Yeah.
So there's so many free options.
And it doesn't mean you have to be, let's meditate every morning before breakfast. When you feel like it, when you need it, do try it.
Actually, saying that when you feel like it, another thing you do is write.
Yeah.
And you don't force it.
I tried forcing it before. So when I started therapy, I was like, okay, my therapist said, try writing about how you feel and get all those thoughts out, and it will really help calm your mind. And I was like, okay.
Yeah.
And I was, and I know, because we read about this all the time, like we said, people talk about mental health so much more now, and they're like, writing really helps. But all I will say is, don't force yourself to do it. It has to come to you naturally. Try it, and if it doesn't stick, don't make yourself do it, because then you only feel more guilty.
If you can't, you're going to end up placing blame on yourself if you're not finding an other way to release it all. So that's not helpful.
Going through therapy, like, I don't know, maybe once a week, I'd try and write a log on my emotions and how I feel and the frustrations and everything like that. And it wasn't natural. I was just forcing myself to do it. And you're forcing yourself to do it when you're sat there going, what should I write? What should I put? Whereas when
it flows out on the page, that's when you know that.
Since the brain tumor diagnosis, I've literally, I don't know how it just came naturally to me. I was like, I want to write a diary about how I feel. I think because mentally I'm in such a positive mental space, I want to document it, how I process my thoughts. Yeah. So then when hopefully if I do end up being down again, let's say after my operation or everything else,
hopefully which is a possibility.
Yeah, hopefully I'm trying to avoid it, so I'm hoping that I can go back and be like, so this is what I did with my days, this is how I thought on my good days, this is the thought process I had. Maybe that will help me then to do it. But yeah, like I said, don't force it, try it and see how you feel about it. Does it make you feel better? Because I know that when I was writing before, I felt like I was forcing it, but it did actually help me. Everything's on paper, whatever tasks I need to do, my thoughts, my feelings are on paper, so when I go to bed I don't have they weren't rushing through my mind as much.
I mean, coping mechanisms are not something you're naturally going to be good at. No. Like anything, you need to learn how you would do it. Yeah. So that's a learning thing in itself. You just learnt how you should be writing and how you feel when you do it. And when you feel like that, that writing will then help. Yeah. But you were speaking about documenting. And I do that. I take photos. You took photos of your face every day to see the difference. And I was so annoyed because I wanted to do that, and see my hair growth mainly. But with photos, I mean, fair play to those people that do upload photos when they're emotional or do emotional videos, because I just feel like that's sharing a part of myself to the world that I couldn't really do. But to my friends, that's fine. I'll send a snotty selfie to people and be like, I'm crying. I don't care. But to on a platform that's large, I don't think I could do that. But for my personal use, I take photos of myself when I'm crying. I had a panic attack and I took a picture of myself afterwards because I wanted to see visually what it looked like to other people. Yeah. Especially for my boyfriend, I think it helped him a bit it didn't help him, the photos helped me, but when he saw what I looked like before a meltdown, then that was his clicker. That was all he knew. So for me, I was like, unless I'm looking in a mirror, I don't know physically how I look. So that was kind of helpful in that sense.
You feel so dramatic though. You feel like you're in a film, aren't you? You sat there crying, looking in the mirror what are you doing? Yeah, but
that's what you need. Sometimes
it's kind of therapeutic.
You don't see yourself from other people's perspective. So in your head, when you're having a meltdown, you look gross, you look horrible, and everything like that.
But once you calm down, looking back at that.
Yeah. So, but then if you're having a meltdown in the mirror, like, let vanity take over for a while. If you think you look horrible and that's something weighing you down, and you're at, like, your most vulnerable, worst state, and you look in the mirror and you don't look horrible, and let vanity claim you for a minute and be like, oh, okay, I look quite cute crying. Like, let it be.
Face.
Like, let that be a positive, like, uplifting thing. Vanity's not bad.
I think that's a very good one. Like, you can document. It's not just writing. You can document it through video, voice recordings, photos. That's a very good point. Like, for me, I know at the moment is I've got all these ideas and plans and, you know, excitement and whatnot, and I just, if I get angry inside, straight away I'm on my laptop typing away.
Yeah.
And the other night Liam said, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm fine." And then I picked up my laptop and he literally said, "You literally picked up your laptop and you were just there like
slamming the keys
45 minutes just writing everything out." And then he said, "I asked you, are you okay?" afterwards. You're like, "Yeah, I'm fine, I'm good, thank you." Okay.
It's difficult, isn't it, with I'm fine, because if someone says to you I'm fine and they're not dealing with it themselves, they don't know how to deal with it, that's problematic. But if you say to someone I'm fine and they pester and pester, but you know how to cope, I think if you say I'm fine, I'm dealing with it, that lets someone know you're not fine but you're managing.
Yeah.
That's helpful. That's actually, like, that's going to let those people know that they don't have to feel like they need to pester you to make sure you're okay. But I think that's why I'm fine on its own, those two words, it's just pointless.
Personally, for me, it's very hard to admit I'm not fine.
Yeah.
It's very, very hard to admit, because in the moment I have all these negative emotions, and then there's someone going, "Are you? What's up? What's wrong?
I
can see something."
Well, sometimes
and you're like,
when people
just
ask,
leave me
you're
alone.
just like, cry.
Oh.
You either get annoyed,
Yeah.
or if someone says, "Are you okay?"
And then it all
water
just
breaks.
comes out,
It's
yeah.
like a dam breaking, and you just, like, do that. I had so many times in school when that happened, and I'd be like, "I need to go to science, and I've got mascara," and I look like a panda, and it was horrible. So there are some days, and sometimes it is a nice, like, release, isn't it? If someone says, "Are you okay?" and you're just not, and you break down.
Yeah.
But yeah. So I'm fine can just be unhelpful. So I always try and be like, I'm fine, I'm dealing with it. But then for people that can't admit to themselves, I mean, denial, isn't it, really? Sometimes it's down to denial, not just the you don't want to, like, look at it. And that's another mental thing, isn't it? Going through the stages of grief for cancer.
Yeah.
There are so many stages you need to go through, and denial is definitely the first one.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I think denial is it's a very difficult emotion to deal with.
It's good if you're not ready to deal with it, and you know that if you tried to deal with it then it'd be too
like
much, your mind would
you.
explode. Yeah. So at least denial just pushes it back until you were ready to deal with it. For some people that then means that they have a massive breakdown and they just don't know, like they've just been pushing off and pushing off and pushing off, and then it hits them like a ton of bricks. But sometimes it does allow you to at least focus when you're ready and deal with it when you're, like...
But it's very interesting. So with my cancer journey 2.0...
Cancer journey.
Because I emotionally, it was such a different experience. And I kept thinking, okay, am I going crazy? Am I in denial? Because I'm feeling very positive about this. After the initial shock and the crying and the, oh my God, I'm going to die thing passed, I've been in a very positive mental space.
That's the thing.
I've been in a very positive mental space. And then every so often I think, oh God, is this going to bite me back, like, soon? And you're always, like, on the watch out, like, oh, I'm having quite a low mood today. Is everything, like, is this... Yeah. It's normal, but then you're also like, have I been in denial this whole time? Is this the shock? Is this why I'm so positive? But it's like, yeah, you just don't know what's going to happen. And it's really... That's why I've been, like, really closely monitoring my emotions and being like, okay, so what's going to make me happy today? Like, what should I concentrate on today that's going to make me happy and productive? And so denial is, for me personally, is a very scary thing, because I think some people are in denial without realising it.
Yeah. And
that's very difficult. Yeah, denial is a very scary emotion for me personally, because... For me personally, denial is a very scary emotion, because I think it can really catch you out of the blue and kind of be like, oh, I'm here.
Yeah.
Everything you felt was denial. And I think it's so important to be like really in check with yourself and other people around you and be like, am I going crazy? You would tell me if I'm going crazy.
I would. I mean, we descend into chaos and madness together.
So, yeah, and I think, you know, just overall with your mental health, it's just important to just know how you feel and just be really like, okay, this is how I feel, this is the situation, and this is what I'm dealing with at the moment, and just take one day at a time, really.
That's the only way you can really do it, isn't it? No 2 days will be the same. Just like no two people are the same.
No.
But we've talked about denial a lot now, because it's definitely something that's the big one that you experience initially when you get cancer, when you get told you have cancer. But I don't think a lot of people realise that the stages of grief aren't just applicable to loss and like death and grieving. Like, this is definitely so prevalent for us. And denial is the first one.
Yeah.
I mean, it helps you survive, doesn't it? That's what we've like really spoken about, and it lets you go numb for a bit and like kind of switch off and indulge in this preferable reality, which then will crumble, and then you have to deal with that. And I think it's so important when that happens, and it will happen. It's such an inevitability that you have a support base around you. One that you want. Some people like going through appointments on their own. That's fine. That's what you want. You know that when your denial wears off, when you have to face this, that's how you want to face it.
Yeah.
So make sure that there are things in place, that people are there to catch you when you fall, because everyone is going to just fall, not just from gravity. And then anger. That's the second stage of grief. We've done that. We've been angry, and I've definitely lashed out at people, so I'm very sorry. Mum, Dad, Luke, Joe, everyone, friends.
Yeah,
we've all done it.
I have a long list of apologies to make, but people understand.
Yeah, and I'm just glad that swearing is part of my vocabulary, and that it's not like anyone I've sworn at.
It's so expressive, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't understand people who can't say the F word. I didn't say the F word deliberately for our viewers.
I swear so much. And I wish I wouldn't, but actually...
There are certain situations when I'm I can't. But otherwise, if I swear at you or with you, I'm not being insulting. That is just a word. To me, it's a verb, it's an adjective, it's anything. It's a noun sometimes.
For me, it's my very narrow British vocabulary, and that's my only way to express myself very well.
But it's important because, like, anger is so ugly, and you do act on impulse. So anything that happens within the anger stage... Not sorry. Thank you for letting me be angry and letting it out. Thank you. Bargaining is the third stage. Like a negotiation. Like it is a negotiation phase, but not with other people. So you're playing out what if scenarios. You're like almost bargaining with yourself for a better outcome, and making yourself so mentally unwell in the process. Like it's not healthy to think about potential outcomes and want them more, because when you don't have that, when that isn't an outcome that's actually feasible, you just feel crap. Like I'd be upset if I thought about the possibility of my cancer spreading, because I'd be like, oh my god, that's just horrible, I can't process that, I don't want to leave Luke. Like, do you know what I mean? Like it makes you really stressed. But then I'd also be equally upset if I thought about it like leaving forever, like if it effed off for good.
Yeah.
I'd then be equally upset because I knew that the likelihood of that happening was just so small, so slim. So either way, it was a lose-lose with that stage. I was just not in a good place.
I think someone like said to me, like, before you get diagnosed, or when I was waiting to find out if it's cancer or not, they're like, just expect the worst news, and then whatever you get is better. It will be better. And I agree with that, but that's so hard to live with.
I said that to you, didn't I?
Yeah,
it's such a tough reality, and because I was trying to like.
I know you said to me, "Oh, I don't think that's a very healthy outlook," because I said, "Oh, I feel really positive about this, so maybe this isn't cancer in my brain," and you were like, "I don't think this is a very." Positive...
I didn't even mean that as like. And I was like, it is
I suppose
cancer.
She's right.
I meant it as I really didn't want you. That's almost a little bit denial-y. Isn't it?
Yeah. I feel really positive. This is not cancer. It's just gonna go away. It's just there.
Yeah.
I mean, there is a very slim chance that is the case, but like, I think it would be foolish of myself to be like, yeah, this is definitely not cancer. I know it. Like, it's definitely not, because chances are it is, and I'd rather be prepared for that mentally
Yeah.
and be like, okay, so this is something I'm going to have to live with now.
But my ethos is expect the worst and whatever will be better, because I've just always had the worst.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like oh god, I've talked about all the things that have gone wrong.
Yeah.
There are more things that have gone wrong that I can talk about. So that is kind of like my ethos, like that's what works for me, and that's kind of why I said it to you, because I was just thinking, like, what is a tip? Like, when you were messaging me because you wanted someone who understood
yeah.
to share it with, and I was like, the only thing I can really offer is just this. And then for you that obviously like wasn't overly helpful, but it wasn't unhelpful. It was just like a thing.
For me it was really helpful to be able to speak to, because I essentially am potentially going to be in your shoes, like in one way or another, in the fact that...
Step into them. We're the same size. You can wear my shoes
not
any
to
day.
say that our diagnoses are very different.
But a relapse is a relapse.
Our diagnoses are very different, but relapse is a relapse. That's true. And I think for me it was just like, how did you cope with this? How did you deal with this?
Every message I got from you was like, how are you doing this? I can't believe, like, I'm here like this and you've been doing this for so long.
Because
and it made me feel like a pro. I should get a medal.
Before I relapsed, I genuinely used to speak to her and be like, I cannot imagine being in her shoes and being like that. And now
that's what you were thinking, and then you were in my shoes until you said it.
Oh, this is actually okay. I can deal with it.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
But that's the thing, isn't it? Like, when that's a what if thing. Like, you're sitting there and it is like, only when something happens do you realise how unhelpful that thought process was, of being like, I don't know how I'd cope if I was doing this, or oh, I'd cope really well if this happened.
Oh, I wouldn't cope, I would just die. But, you know, like, I love how we laugh so hard about death.
Laugh about death. Well, what else are you going to do? We've said this before. If you don't laugh, you're going to cry.
Yeah.
And death, to me, this is getting a bit deep now. We'll go back to the stages in a second, because this is important to say. Death is real to us. It's very real. Like, staring it in the face.
To everyone, it should be.
Some people realise it sooner, but to me personally, I'm not scared of death. I'm not scared of going. I'm scared of I feel it's weird. Like, I'm obviously a bit like sad. I'm sad about leaving.
Yeah.
When I do leave, that's sad. I don't want my life to be over. I want to get married. I want to have loads of babies. Well, all the 5 that I can have babies with my boyfriend. Like, I want everything that everyone else gets, and I do feel deprived.
Yeah.
And I do look at people and go, I just want what you have. I just want the simplest form of love.
But you're loving life as it is right now.
But that's the thing. Like, someone asked us yesterday, didn't they? They were like, and are you well? And I just looked at you and was like, am I well, Liv? And you said, I mean, you're growing tumours, but you're fine. And that is the case.
Yeah.
Like, I am. Like I said, I could be so much worse.
Yeah.
But for me, death, I'm not scared of. It's what I leave behind.
I completely agree with that.
We're very terrified of how it would wreck.
For me, it's
other
knowing
people.
that my family would be upset that, you know, I would leave someone I love very much behind. And it's like, how will they cope? I'm more worried about other people's emotions rather than my own.
Why am I going to cry?
Oh, babe.
I watched A Star is Born this morning. I'm still a mess. Oh my god, I'm okay.
Oh, stop it.
I'm okay. We're fine. This is real talk, isn't it? There are always going to be tears. I'm going to make you cry, though. Are you one of those people that if I cry, you cry?
You're not going to make me cry.
No, but it is.
It's. I'm not scared of death either.
No.
I'm glad.
We've
It
come
sounds
to
really
terms with
stupid,
it's going to
but
happen at some point.
I'm glad that this situation presented itself, because it's taught me so much about how fragile my life is, and I know that's such like an overused thing.
But
for me, I'm so happy right now in this moment, and
learning that life is
every
finite.
day since I've been diagnosed with this brain tumor has been, I've just enjoyed everything.
Yeah.
And I've had a sad thoughts and everything like that, but it's just like really it's changed me a lot. Stop it.
We're okay.
Oh, I love
No,
you.
because I look at you and I'm just like so glad that we have had that realisation, and it just makes you so much of a fuller, wholer person, knowing that you're not vampires, as cool as it would be. Like, I would so be a vampire over a werewolf, like Team Edward all the time. But
no idea what you're talking about.
Twilight. Shh. That's a whole other thing I'm gonna smack you about later.
I'm gonna smack you out later.
Well, you know what our relationship is like.
What is she on about?
I don't know.
You crazy woman.
what were we talking? Oh, like we do. Like, I'm so glad that we do realise that we are just mortal.
Yeah.
And like, even though we've got dealt a shit card, at least we are aware of it and we're not just wasting our lives.
Yeah.
But it is like, we've talked about death and that makes us sad, and doing
But
a little
that's
bit,
just
becoming a
natural.
little bit of a circle.
Dealing
back
with
to,
death is very, it's a natural thing to be sad.
Yeah.
No one can ever.
No.
We're so emotionally attached to people and our families and
life.
stuff like that, and to life.
Yeah.
That it's only natural to be sad.
Yeah.
I wouldn't dare to be like, if I die from this cancer, or when I do die, because we're all gonna die eventually,
Yeah.
whether it's the cancer or whatever else. I want everyone to turn up to my funeral dressed bright and smile, because
I kind of want someone as a Grim Reaper just to stand at the back.
I do
take the
want
piss.
there to be a joke, yes, but I don't want to be like, I don't want you to be sad. I don't want you,
I'll tell you what, that's why I'm not scared of death. And the thing I'm most sad about is that I won't be able to attend my own funeral.
Yeah.
That's what I think, because I think about my funeral all the time. Like, I think about the people that would attend, what it would be like, how I'd want it. And then I get a weird, like, I'm not going to see that. I'm not going to, the amount of time we spend thinking about how our loved ones are going to react to horrible news.
We won't be there to see it.
We won't be there to see it. And even though, but we think about it all the time. And
Yeah.
I think that's what scares me, is the fact that I think about it so much, but I'm not going to be there for it.
How will that change these people's lives?
Yeah, and you
I
won't.
hope they're going to be able to move
Yeah.
on and be happy, and just like.
I'd love to think that I could watch them from a cloud,
I know.
and that's where our souls go.
Hopefully.
Because I think as like ghosts are actually like really cool thing. They're not scary when you think about it. They're just.
I'm like,
dead
if you're not
people.
gonna carry on living your
Haunt
life and
the
be the
bitch.
be the happiest version of yourself, I'm gonna haunt you.
That's what I mean. I just think, like, to me, that's quite comforting that nobody knows what happens to the dead. Nobody knows what happens after death. And for me, thinking that, I could potentially, as that's one of my biggest fears, is not death itself, but the fact that I won't be around. For me, that's quite comforting and reassuring, knowing that anything could be happening. I could be reincarnated as a dolphin, because I'd like to be an aquatic animal, I think.
Hopefully not like in an aquarium somewhere.
Oh no, fuck
Free
SeaWorld.
ranging.
No, I'd want to be a free dolphin,
Yeah.
just in the sea, roaming about. But do you know what I mean? Like, and I think coming full circle, that acknowledging death and getting really sad about it, and kind of, you can face up to your fears and be depressed at the same time, but that's another stage. That's the next stage, isn't it? This depression. And
Just going back
it's like
to
you
anger
do.
a minute. Sorry to interrupt. I don't know what I was gonna say.
What do you want to say about
I
anger?
wanted to say something about anger.
Were you angry when you had the thought? Do you need to like punch something? You know, when like sometimes
like-
if you revisit the place you're in and then suddenly it comes back to you.
No, like anger is such a strong emotion, and it just comes on so fast that.
It comes and goes.
Yeah.
It like ebbs, like really.
So what's like
fast
a
and
good
hard.
way to deal with it? Sometimes, it's hard not to just let it just jump out and just like say things or snap at people or everything like that. For me, I think it's like being like, okay, I feel really angry. And for me, sometimes I will just be like, I feel really agitated and really angry. Just leave me alone. Just don't speak to me.
You needed the
hula
social
hoop.
distancing
Yeah,
now. You need the
yeah.
social distancing hula
Because
hoop.
I will say something you won't like. I will, explode, and then just really calming down and be
And
like,
then you'll have to
okay,
deal with the
why do I
repercussions.
feel
of what you said.
angry? Okay, so this is the situation. This is how I feel.
Do you lay it out?
Yeah.
Kind of.
So I feel angry because of this. Okay, can I change this?
Yeah.
Can I? Okay, why is it bothering me?
Yeah.
How is it impacting my life? What's the long term impact of this on me?
Yeah.
And just thinking about that, and anger is such a big emotion.
Yeah.
And you don't always have to manage it. You don't always have to like keep it under control, but it's helpful to be able to do that.
Yeah.
And
Because you
if you're-
can't. I mean, as much as I'd want to, you can't really just go lashing out at people willy nilly.
But even if you're like, shut up, just don't say anything,
Yeah.
please just shut up, just give me 1 minute.
That's so much
Just
better
give
having a
me 1
firm
minute.
tone than
Yeah.
actually, and then
it
but
might
maybe
come-
being a bit upset that you've said that to
Yeah.
them. But at least it's not something really hurtful in
Yeah.
your angry episodes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I completely agree with that.
Totally.
Depression. Hit rock bottom. I don't know why we needed a little theme tune for that, but we did. But that's the thing, isn't it? There are always going to be laughy moments
Yeah.
where you can then pick yourself up, even if you're at your worst.
Yeah.
But I mean, depression to me just links with death. Like I actually, and that's the closest relation to the like grief and loss and the stages of grief specifically linking depression to cancer, that's the closest link, because I actually did grieve. I had to grieve my former self. Like, and I was so surprised. I wasn't aware that I was doing it, but it is, you are completely different. You're not the same, and you almost do need to acknowledge the loss of your former self and actually grieve. That's actually quite healthy to be like, okay, let's deal with it. Let's deal with my past self as if it were a person. Let me grieve. Let me go through that process. And maybe I can acknowledge the fact that there is no normal. The normal I knew is now different. It's new. And I can acknowledge that and get there quicker.
But I think like the grieving
literally
bit
part of me ceased to
it's
exist.
not just you. It's everything changes, like your dreams and plans and
your
hopes
outlook.
And your outlook.
Your
everything
aspirations,
changes. And that's why for me, for example, with this brain tumour, you know, they're like, we're pretty certain it's cancer. There is a chance it might not be. And this is why I was like, I need an operation.
Yeah.
So it's physically out and it's tested. And then you can tell me, you know, black on white, this is 100% a cancer.
Because they offered you gamma.
They offered me gamma knife,
or surgery.
So for me, if you're going to tell me this will change my perspective on life even more. This will affect the way I make decisions about my life. You know, from what I eat, to what, you know, the way I look after my body, to like future decisions I make.
That's so valid, yeah.
And that's so important. And for my own sanity, really, rather than always being like,
you don't want to be labelled metastatic breast cancer if it's not. You want to know.
What if, yeah. So for me, it's, again, I will, you know, if...
You don't have to keep repeating the stages if you don't need to. If you can get to
this turns out to be cancer, then I can grieve.
You can
whatever
grieve.
This,
you can do
this
the stages
remission
once.
Stage was. And then just remodel my plan
and get to acceptance, and that is the last stage. And like we just said there, you, even though you want to kind of do the stages once, you want to get through everything and reach the other side, there are going to be times where you have to cycle through. Maybe I definitely cycle through anger and depression stages the most, because I know that the what if scenarios are just really unhelpful, and I really, when I realise I'm slipping into that mindset, I do switch myself out of it and like try and do that quickly. And I like, you will have to go through things once, twice,
cycles,
3 times.
cycles,
like life is a cycle, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's the circle of life, and it is cycles.
Circle of life.
That's circle of life. That wasn't it either, but we got it in there.
I'll put that in the podcast.
Thank you
I love
so
your
much.
singing.
You're so sweet. This is it. This is building me up.
Oh.
I love that. I'm not going to cry again. We're fine.
Stop it.
We're fine.
Menopausal today.
Oh my god, yeah, I didn't even think. Yeah, maybe I'm crying because of hot flushes.
Do you
and
think
menopause.
it's because of your hormones you're feeling like this, not you're actually feeling like
Don't,
this?
because I've had to face, because we were recording this, I've had to face you so that you don't see the giant spot that is because of the menopause and my hormones.
When I edit.
That's me showing it off.
I don't know how
you
to
could
zoom
see
in.
it from space. That's how big this spot is.
You're a bright, shining star. That's an inspiration, baby.
Thank you so much. You tried to be so English and baby. That was gross. That's a horrible thing.
I'll delete that.
No, but like, I think that's the thing, isn't it? I've accepted that every time my hormones are messed up, I get really crap skin, which then makes me depressed. So it's all a thing.
Yeah.
And that's important, is it? It's knowing how to deal with it and how to deal with your own brain, because it's your brain. No one else can see it apart from Liv. People are literally seeing yours next Friday when they cut into it.
Oh god.
So that just rendered my comment completely redundant. But no one can see your brain. No one can tell you how to use your brain.
Will they be able to see it? Well, they will.
Your brain. If they're taking out a possible tumour, I'd hope that where it's in your brain, I'd hope that they were looking at your brain to make sure that they weren't cutting into different bits.
Ignore me. Yeah, and I think at the end of the day, it all comes to listening to your body.
Yeah.
And, you know, some people might be like, you're talking shit, Liv, but...
Talking out your ass, Liv.
Talking out your arse. Because at the end of the day, we all have an intuition. We all have our bodies, and our bodies send us messages, and our brain blocks it out. I did like this little experiment the other weekend where I woke up in the morning, And
Science, Liv. Psychology 101.
I woke up in the morning and I said, today I'm going to just listen to my body and do what my body feels like.
Did it just say you were hungry all the time? That's what mine would do. Oh, you're hungry, you want a nap now. I just would turn into a baby.
And and I noticed, I thought, okay, I really want to get up and go for a nice long walk with the dog, and just really take in time and just enjoyed my surroundings.
And like have a change of scenery.
And then my brain switched on and it went, no, you have loads of laundry to do. The house hasn't been hoovered in 3 days or whatever.
And it was
and
like chores.
And I was like, no, brain, actually, I'm going to listen to my body and do what I want to do. And then I got into this habit of just listening to my body. And I know people have jobs and everything else like that.
You
so
can't
you can't always just follow your intuition on what you got to do.
Yeah.
But I just follow my intuition because I'm just sat at home not working.
We're not
at the
doing
moment.
anything.
Well, we're working
unemployed
now.
We're not, oh yeah, that's true. We are employed by ourselves.
We are self-employed.
I employ you.
Not that we earn
I don't employ you. I implore you to do this podcast with me.
But we get no money for it yet, so that's all right.
I like that positive yet. That optimistic yet. Are we influencers yet?
Frankie doesn't agree. He's like, no, you're not. Shut up.
Frankie is too vocal.
So yeah, and I for the past few weeks I've just been really like, I've been on a self-discovery soul journey, and I realised all the jobs around the house are done. All the jobs...
You're just nitpicking, and it's like you constantly feel like you have to hold yourself at a standard of...
But like the house is clean and the jobs are done because I've listened to my body.
Yeah.
And I've been like, okay, I feel like going and doing that pile of laundry now.
Yeah.
I feel like going and doing this. And I know that might not be the case for other people. Like, the old me is absolutely lazy. And my intuition, I would be like, my intuition is telling me to stay in bed and watch YouTube all day.
Yeah.
And eat crisps or whatever.
Which is perfectly okay.
Which is okay as well. It's not a problem. You don't have to be a 24/7 clean.
That's the Eastern European in you.
My parents are proud.
Your parents are proud, but I always feel slightly intimidated when you go. No, but you do fight. You say something, then you're like, "I'm sorry, I'm so bossy," and I'm like, "No, it's fine. I know you. It's cool."
I know. I'm just foreign.
Stop biting your nails. Can you move the pillow? Can you turn it up? Turn the subtitles on.
Please.
Please. There is always a please. No, you're not. You just... I think that is the thing. I've noticed that you know your body and you know how you
and
work.
for me, it's this focus. For me, it's this whole thing okay, what's going to make me happy today? What's going to keep me distracted today? What's going to keep me busy? For me, at the moment, it's just being busy. Because that's what's keeping me sane before this brain surgery and everything like that. And then, I don't know, maybe after brain surgery, because I'll be feeling I'll be more bedbound, it'll be more difficult for me to be like, what's going to make me happy now? Oh, it's shopping. Online shopping.
Retail therapy. Great. Mine is buying pajamas. Because I know that if I'm going to be asleep all day, I may as well feel good and wear something comfortable.
So when I found out about my surgery yesterday, me and Verity went online and I literally ordered 3 pajama sets.
It was the best thing ever.
Because you influenced me, Verity.
I am an influencer.
You influenced me. Anyways, off topic again. Just listen to your body and to your intuition. I know it's easy to say for someone that's at home unemployed. But just...
About to go through one of the biggest surgeries they're going to face, so we'll give her some slack.
Thank you. So just listen to your body and just really be like, okay, what feels right for me right now?
And she said that 5 times in the past 2 minutes, so it must be an important tip.
And, and whether that's eating junk food or good food, it's all about balancing things,
moderation,
isn't it?
Yeah.
It's about balancing the good and the bad and the fun and the sad.
The yin and the yang.
And the yin and the yang. Very lovely. I love that.
I like that.
Yeah.
That's nice.
But yeah, it's all about balancing and checking in and talking and being open and not being scared of being vulnerable and just yourself and
unapologetically yourself.
Yeah.
Be unapologetically you. Check in with your friends and look after yourself.
Yeah, and different people, people's reactions to you, to your story, to your emotions, that's their problem.
problem.
That is their problem. That's not for you to deal with.
No, they want to know.
If people,
so you tell them,
yeah.
they deal with that. Don't then take on board everyone else's feelings, because you haven't got enough in you to worry about the world. Your body, your brain physically isn't big enough.
Yeah.
Like, it can't comprehend 1 billion. That takes like 37 and a half years. Try counting the amount of people in the world.
Yeah.
Like, you can't. It's not a thing. So don't try and encompass everybody else's beliefs and views and their opinions. Just let them deal with it on their own. That's their issue. And just focus on you.
Yeah, focus on yourself.
Especially now.
Like, yeah, during this time especially, just do whatever the hell will make you happy.
As long as it's not offending, hurting anyone else.
No, of course.
Within reason.
I don't believe there's bad people in the world. I think everyone is generally trying to be their best version. It's just people haven't had the life lessons they need. They haven't had the experiences they need to make them their best version.
I was immediately thinking murderers, maybe. I don't care about. But I see where you were going with that.
Do you know what I mean?
With
people end up in situations and scenarios and stuff like that.
Sometimes it's circumstantial as well. It's nature versus nurture.
Yeah.
We could do so many psychology debates in this episode right now. But we won't. But I guess some people are just governed by their id a whole lot more.
And you got to remember, there's no way you can make everyone happy.
No.
So just pick the people you want in your life.
Yeah. If you've had friends, especially if you've had friends for years, if you grow. Remember that friendships from when you were 10 in school to now, you've grown completely as people. If you're trying to force a friendship just because you're nice, just because you feel like you can't cut that person out, you don't have to cut them out. Just don't feel obliged to
keep those relationships going.
Especially toxic ones. It takes the time to realise it for yourself, and people have those realisations at different speeds. But the most important thing is that you are kind of thinking. Well, it's about thinking about how you think, which sounds completely counterintuitive, but it is. Your brains name themselves, don't they?
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it's your brain. It's you. Know how you work.
Stop with
is
all
our
this
message.
brain talk. I'm not a big fan of my brain at the moment.
This is quite a prevalent episode for you.
Yeah. Brain.
Next
week I'll be on like, oh, hello. I was thinking, what if I wake up from the surgery and I can't speak English anymore? I mean, I barely can at the moment, but
what if it gets even worse?
And I wake up speaking fluent German.
Well,
moving to Germany.
Well, that'd be great. What we'd have to do though now is I'd speak English, you'd have to speak in the language you will wake up in, and then we'll just put subtitles on. So don't worry, we'll be coming at you. It'll be a broader audience.
The subtitles lives on. That's so strange. But yeah, just remember, guys, love yourself, listen to your body, and just hopefully you have people in your life who you can talk to openly and vulnerably.
There'll be a subtitle on that.
Hopefully you have people in your life who you can be open with and vulnerable with.
Yeah.
And just really talk it all out. And whether that's not something that floats your boat or helps, just try to find ways in which you're in tune kind of with your mind and your thoughts, and just be like, this is how I feel, this is what I'm going through, and just try to deal one thing at a time.
Don't overload yourself.
Don't put pressure on yourself. Don't overload yourself, because it doesn't help.
There's only one you. Don't ruin you for the sake of others.
Yeah.
And I'm glad we ended this on a very uplifting, positive note, because it's quite important, isn't it, for people to know that there is always light at the end of the tunnel, even when it doesn't feel like there is.
Yeah. Oh, that's definitely something.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So on that note, see you on the rebound, not the relapse.